Welcome back, everybody. Robert Marzullo here from Ram Studio Comics. So today's video is going to be a year in review, and I'm going to show you some of the work that I've created and which ones I think came out better and why, and we'll kind of delve into that. So hopefully this will help you to make better decisions when creating your own portfolio pieces and learning and moving on from that experience. So let's go ahead and get to it. So these are going to be the 10 pieces that I feel kind of came out the best this year, and each within their own reasons of why and what I can do. And then I'll show a few that could have been a lot better, and I'll maybe touch on a few areas of each of these that could have been better. So let's get to it. So for number 10, this is a Barbarian piece that I wanted to do. The main thought process of this one was to work on the foreshortening and to add in lots of little details and not get straight away with just going with a plain basic shot. I wanted there to be a feeling of motion here. He's being fired upon. If you notice, there's some arrows here. Those do get a little bit lost into all the kind of murky details there. But I still feel that it came out pretty well. It did well on social media and things like that. I always say that I use that a little bit as a gauge. There are some funky things with the posturing. The legs are off, things like that. But overall, I think the piece came out pretty good, and I kind of got what I was going for, and that was a rough kind of pencil-y feel, very sketchy feel, and not being held back from adding in the details that I wanted to see in there, which was foreshortening and lots of little sketchy details. So in that instance, I would call this one more of a success. Okay, so now the number 9 spot goes to the Spawn piece. Now, although this piece was actually just really quick, I think it only took a few hours. And that's the nice thing about, well, one, when you revisit a certain character over and over again, you really kind of embed them into your mind's eye, and you get a great perception of what you want to see from that character. This was one of the first ones where I fully digitally painted on my iPad Pro with Procreate using the Apple Pencil, as I talk about a lot on the channel here. And it just kind of flew out. It just kind of worked, and I was going for this animated kind of old school. What I look at it like is that, back in the beginning, Spawn was a little bit more fun and Disney-esque, even though he's very much not a Disney type character, but he had a bit more fun feel to him, and now he's a lot darker and gruesome and all that stuff. So, but whatever, it fits the motif of the character for sure. But I just wanted this to be that almost animated, almost TV show feel, and so I feel that this one came out pretty good in that vibe, and it was just, again, a quick flowing process, which is always nice. So I'll give that one the number 9 spot. Number 8, I'm going to give to this Diablo piece. This was actually a request from one of my patrons on my Patreon site, which was really nice. Up until then, I hadn't had any real requests of do this, do that, and I'd never even really dealt with this character, but it was actually a refreshing feel, and I learned a lot in the process of this one. This particular one was done predominantly on the iPad Pro, but then I shifted and did some finishing touch-ups and even painting inside of Photoshop. So for the most part, it was done all inside that program. I was able to execute probably about 95% of it inside of Procreate, which was nice. Noticing I got some flaws in the mountain right there. And overall, I think the piece came out pretty well. There's some definite flaws that could always be better, and that's one of the things that this particular video will be about, to kind of talk to you about how, you always get done with a piece and you always look back and go, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I wish I could have did this. I should have did that. But at the same time, you have to remember that all of this is about moving in a forward momentum, and that getting better day to day is a big deal, and you can't really harbor any ill will towards your previous decisions. All you can do is learn from them, grow from them, and create the next piece. So at the end of the day, it's better that you complete the work and make something cool, as cool as you can for that period of where you're at in life, and then learn from it and move on. So in this one, I would say, the edges could be done a lot better. There's kind of this unified coloring that's a little too evident. It needs a lot more variation in color tones. Obviously, I forgot to blend this really noticeable shape all of a sudden. I can't take my eye off it. I think it's part of the part of the cloud effect that I was running in front of it, but now it just looks like a line going through there. So again, that's something I didn't really notice at the time, and now it seems to stick out. So that's always like the progression aspect of your work. Things at the time, her nose looks a bit tiny. Maybe that could stand to be a little bit bigger, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now to the next one, number 7. The reason why I gave this Catwoman shot the number 7 pick, it's obviously not as intense as some of the other ones as far as creation, but the reason why I liked it is and oftentimes when I'm doing this type of work, I'm trying to find my style, and we all talk about that a lot on the channel and back and forth with various artists trying to find their style. Well, I'm just like you guys. I'm trying to find my style as well, and I felt like this kind of gelled right in that instance. And then also, this was entirely penciled and inked on the iPad Pro, and it was one of the first pieces. This and the Wolverine one you'll see next was one of the first pieces where I felt like the inks and the comic style was pretty spot on for what I was looking for. And so that's really why I was kind of most pleased with this, because I felt like the style and the way that the character was drawn was right what I was going for. Hands a little funky. It's too boxy. I'm noticing that. Just so you know, hands don't go straight across like that. So it needs to tuck down by the pinky. Which is weird because I just did this one. So it's not like I would see a ton of progression from then to now, but it's just things you notice. But again, I felt like the inks were just the way that I wanted them to. They came out very cleansely, and the style was right there. So that's why I wanted to include that. Okay, and no, actually, I don't want to go to the Wolverine one next. I want to go to number 6, which I give to this Ogre piece. Now, the reason why I really feel that this one was one of my better pieces this year was because I kind of got that bit of realism that I was looking for. So you notice if I go back and forth from the Catwoman to this, very different styles, obviously, but one of the things that I was going for here is I wanted my digital paintings to have certain elements of realism in them. I don't really go for an entire realism throughout my work, but there's parts where I really like to have a little bit of realism, and that's what I was going for here. So what I did is I found a real beautiful 3D shot that somebody had done, and I wish I could have found the artist to credit them properly, but I couldn't. It was just too hard to find it for some reason. But it was a 3D render. I don't know if it was for a movie or I'm assuming game art. And I just studied it closely. I didn't draw over top. This is all me looking at it from one screen, painting it on another. So if you were to hold them side by side, you're going to see noticeable differences. And I do these more as studies because I'm trying to get in there and really figure out, okay, if the lighting hits the face here and there's this transition, what does it do? And these colors of the cheek, what's there? Is there shades of purple, blue, yada, yada. And I'm really trying to just study it like I would study a photo. But the reason why I like doing 3D renders is because, for one, there's a very artistic, obviously, artistic creation process that's going on here, a very detailed one. And 3D renders just have tons of data and information to pull from, just like a photo. So to me, it's the best of both worlds to be able to do that type of study. So that's why I do them. Okay, so and like I said, this one felt like I really hit the nail on the head with that particular aspect. Now, the other reason I was really happy with this is because this was entirely done. It was done in Manga Studio 5, but it was done with a Wacom Intuos 4. So that was kind of big for me because I kept kind of shying away from that tablet, and I was like, you know what, I gotta put time in on that tablet. Those tablets are very important to stay frosty or whatever, keep using them and build that level of confidence with them. And plus, I didn't want to sit there and tell people on my channel here, oh yeah, you can do it all with the Intuos 4, but then, yeah, I use a Cintiq. That just, or an iPad Pro, whatever. It didn't seem like I didn't want to be dishonest with anybody. So that was really kind of my purpose of doing this, those few things there. And then, let's see, I probably get the flash of the other ones there, but let me find where number 5 is. Where are you, number 5? Right here. Okay, so Deadpool, that's kind of an easy one. Everybody loves Deadpool. The movie came out, easy peasy. It was kind of a no-brainer. I did also do this. Actually, I think I started this on the Intuos 4, but I finished it on the Cintiq. I'd have to look. But looking back on this one, it's not as great as I thought it was. I mean, it's still a good piece, but it looks a little bit, especially compared to the previous one, it looks a bit washed out or not enough enriched detail. But I did this really fast. I think I was done with this in 4 hours. I'm still very impressed with it. I was happy with it. Obviously, a lot of other people were because it did really well on social media. But again, that's because it's Deadpool. You know, everybody loves Wade Wilson, so it's gonna do well because of that. But still pretty happy with that one. And let's see, where we're at number 4. And can't have Deadpool without Wolverine, right? So this one was great in the sense that I was able to do it on the iPad Pro entirely from start to finish. I think I did a tiny bit of post processing in Photoshop, but almost none. And that was really the goal of this one. I just wanted the entire piece to be done in. You know what? Actually, I don't know that I did. I was thinking I did the glares, but now that I remember it, those were in Procreate as well, because that's actually a Procreate pre-created brush. So yeah, this was probably all done in Procreate. Um, and I was going for a very comic book type feel, like something very traditional of comics, and even just a touch more animated. And just so you know, this was inspired by the pose and the same style of art as Mike Zeck. So you can look at his work and, you know, don't think that I entirely created this from scratch. Now, again, I just studied his and I added my own stuff and recreated it. But it was inspired by his shot. So I make sure to always credit the artist, but I never trace. I never do anything but look at it, and then I try to only look at it for a minimal amount of time, usually in the sketch stage, and maybe a little in the inks. But I try to do away with that, and then hopefully create a bit of my own. And just so people are aware of why I really do that, it's not because I want to say, "Hey, look at this cool artwork I did," and then never mention the previous artist. It's far from it. In fact, it's more for me to study and learn what decisions they make. It's the same reason why I ink over people's work like David Finch, Jim Lee, or McFarlane, whoever. I ink over their work not because I want to be an inker. It's because I want to study on a more intimate level the choices that they make into the smaller details of their work. To me, it's the best way to commit that stuff to memory and then in turn to develop your own style. Okay, so number 3 was Venom. This one I'm pretty pleased with because it was strictly out of the brain box. I don't think I even looked at another picture of Venom. You know, he's a pretty easy character to remember. Um, and as far as I can remember, I don't think I looked at anything. But I rough sketched it. I showed it to you guys via video. People made some decisions whether or not we're going to take this to digital paint or traditional, which I consider like the one we just saw of Wolverine. And we took this to digital. Majority all done in Procreate. Again, a little bit of post-processing edit work inside of Photoshop, but predominantly all done on the iPad Pro, sitting on the couch watching some TV and vegging out. So that's always my favorite way to create. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this. Mainly the thing that I like about this one is that I feel like the skin texture came out pretty good. The salivation or salivity or whatever you call those, the dripping goo off his mouth. You know, that all had a good feel to it. So I felt like this one was pretty accurate for what I was going for. And again, it was done in a reasonable amount of time. And that's something else I wanted to touch on real quick. It seems like when you do happen to hit the nail on the head as far as the style you're going for, it seems that it usually comes out pretty fast. So it's like an ebb and flow kind of thing. Now this one, actually, is this? Yeah, this is number 2. Okay, so this one is like, you know, one of my faves. There's a reason why it's not number 1, and I'll talk about that in a second. But it came out really good. It got featured. I was really happy. It got featured by World of Warcraft's Blizzard Entertainment. Showed it on a few of their tweets and their posts and stuff. So I was really happy. You know, it's just always nice when somebody else takes notice of what you're doing and shares it and does all that. So it was really cool. And again, this was done all on the Intuos 4. And, you know, I got another video. You can check that out and see all that. I talk about it. And there was no pre-drawing on the Cintiq, nothing like that. It was all on the Intuos 4. And I was real happy with that because I felt like it came out really good. I feel like it has a decent amount of realism, you know, / style. Now, again, this is me studying a 3D render from the movie. It was just of Orgrim, and I created this background just out of, you know, imagination or whatever, something that I thought would go good with his look. But I made sure to stylize it as much as I could and not just be a slave to the reference. So to use the reference, obviously, for all the great details and texture and data there, but then to give it a little bit of style to call it my own. Hopefully that came through. You can be the judge of that. Okay, so now for the number 1 spot, I had to give it to Spidey, and now this is probably a mix of me just being a fan, you know, but I also felt that this piece came out pretty much the way I wanted it. Like, I've never gotten the opportunity to say per se draw for Marvel or Spidey would be the fave. But if I did, I felt like this would be the style that I would convey. Every now and then I draw pages or pinups or whatever, just because I love this character. I always have, and I always feel like it's the one that I can create and draw and get a true feeling and a sense of what I like to do style wise. Since I'm so happy with the character creation process, to me, you're always going to get your best work and your best representation of your style by creating your favorite characters, and that's what this character is for me. This was penciled in Procreate. It was inked in Manga Studio 5, and it was colored in Photoshop. So this is pretty much a mixed media and a hybrid of the, or is it would it be a hybrid or a tribrid? Anyways, a mixed media of the three different programs, and I was able to try to extrapolate the best from each of them and come up with this. So that's predominantly what I do if I'm really trying to make a piece look the best. And could it be better looking back? Yeah, there's some proportion issues. There always seems to be. The colorization could definitely be better. Coloring's not my strong suit, but I feel overall it's been one of my better pieces of the year to call it the number one spot, or to give it the number one spot. So that's it for the markdown of the best 10 of the year. Now I'm going to go ahead and critique a couple of the pieces that didn't make the top 10. There's obviously a lot of pieces I create throughout the year, but now we'll go ahead and talk about those and see if I can shed some light on reasons why those pieces didn't do as well as the other ones I just showed you. Okay, so now for me to critique my own work, and this is always tough. This is always, it's easier for me to critique my own work than everybody else's. Everybody keeps asking me to do critique sessions on YouTube here, and I'm always hesitant because I don't try to be a mean guy. Sometimes I'm probably pretty mean, but I don't think I'm that mean. So, and I don't know that critiquing work should be mean, but it takes a certain toughness to be able to say, hey buddy, this is what you're doing wrong. Now let's practice on my own, because there's lots of things I see wrong with my own work. With this one of Harley Quinn, the first thing that I see looking back, it's funny how I can get through a piece and I'm thinking, oh, this is coming out great. I like this. Everybody's going to dig this one. Man, I like this, whatever. And then I go back and I'm like, how was I thinking? This thing could have been way, way better. So I feel like this piece, she looks really stiff. There's obviously some proportion issues. She has like these really huge arms. Proportions are always a nightmare for me. So this year I'm going to really work hard on proportions and more of my own figure drawing studies and things like that. And I do like the rendering, the variation in shading. I don't really like what I did on the breast here. Like, it just looks, I made it look too rigid. Everything, she looks a bit tense. The pose looks awkward. Yeah, there's just a bunch of funkiness there. The hammer, even though I was trying to go for that animated larger hammer thing that she does, that people do with her or whatever, it's a little bit pushed too far. And then you can tell I kind of just cheaped out and did some smoke. Like, I got lazy. I don't know why there would even be smoke, and there's no evidence in the scene of why that would even tie into this. So this one, that's why I couldn't rate it and say, oh, this was some great piece. It's just not. It's not bad. I mean, I wouldn't totally crumble it up and throw it away. It's digital, so I wouldn't do that anyways. But I wouldn't delete it, But it could have been a lot better. So I'll do more Harley Quinn fan art in the future, and I'll definitely remember the mistakes I made here. Okay, so next, and these are in no certain order. I'm just going to critique a couple of these just so you guys realize that I do see faults in my own work, and it's a big part of the progression process. So here, now the good thing about this was I started off just drawing this and painting it, or I only used the Intuos 4 again, so that was kind of neat. I was trying to make sure that I could get some decent anatomy, even though I got some negative comments on the anatomy for some reason, but which I know my anatomy still needs work. Anatomy is one of those things you'll always continually be trying to improve. And I did feel that it conveyed a certain amount of motion in the scene. You could see I cheaped out and got lazy and didn't finish it. Now, so that's one big thing about this piece. It's unfinished. I mean, you can see right there, I didn't even blend some of these lines. So I lost intensity and I lost interest in the piece. And that's not a good habit to get into. That happens. It's part of, your art creation and things like that. You're not always going to have this intense energy to finish the work. Some of them are just going to kind of, you're going to lose interest and lose sight of it, and it's going to get shoved to the back burner and then maybe never revisit it at all. I do plan on actually revisiting this because I don't like leaving unfinished work like this, and I still feel the piece has some good possibilities to it. So with that in mind, that's one of the things I see here: the unfinished work, the laziness, and throughout the piece. Um, yes, could the anatomy be better? Of course. Also, I don't like the murky kind of lack of well thought out color. So there's a lot of issues why this one should be a lot better. So let's see, Blaze. There, I called this girl Blaze. I was like thinking that this was an energy radiating from her, from like a power or whatever. So at first I was really into this one. I was like, oh, this is coming out beautifully. Her eyes look good, her lips look good. They're a bit hard edged right there. Lips don't have a completely trimmed edge like that. They usually soften up a lot. I got it on the bottom right there, but it's like I forgot to really soften the sides and the top there. But that being said, there's even more problems with it. The head's too overly round. I had this bad habit that I'm just now noticing and wanting to fix of leaving this hard, crisp edge around everything. That should never be there. You can see it really bad right here. In fact, the fact that the strands of the hair don't curve right at the very back right there make it look just really fake and like almost a cardboard cutout. So that's just would really kill any piece, especially if you got some areas that look pretty refined like the eyes, but then you totally forgot to blend this. It just looks amateurish. So although, not to mention the neck looks really awkward and overly long. So there's definitely some proportion issues with this one. There's also some lack of feminine quality to the jawline and the way that the face would slope in. Some women do have a very squared off jaw, but it doesn't look like this. It would look a little bit more tapered in, and there would definitely be a softer chin probably to go with it. So it lacks feminine quality. And then the edging is just poorly done, and just a certain amount of softness, and then proportion issues. So my big takeaway with my work this year is I really got to beef up my knowledge in on subtleties and also proportions, which aren't so subtle. Proportions are a big killer for anything in your work. Okay, now this one. This one just ticks me off. I was really into this when I did it, and I'm thinking, you can tell by all the little details, I was kind of like thinking I was in the zone. And I think for parts of it I was, and then other parts just, again, it filtered out, and I ended up with a piece at the end that was lackluster. And that's what happened here. So now some noticeable flaws with this one are, well, for one, the one thing that ticks me off is Superman's face. I don't know what I was thinking there. I had a better face earlier on in the rendition, and then I ended up trying to change it and make him look more intense, and I took it in the wrong direction. So his face, it doesn't look like Superman. The hair doesn't. It's like some dude in Superman's outfit. It's just not cool. But Batman, he looks overly bulky everywhere. Like there needs to be more. I mean, I'm trying to convey it's that suit, but it looks too rounded and polished and overly bubbly. I have this problem where if I try to make a character look strong and massive, sometimes I might end up with this bubbly look, and that's what I did here. So that needs to be better. The other thing is that it doesn't read well from a distance. I didn't spot the blacks properly, I think, so that, part of, I think the suit in here reads about right, but the rest of it starts to blend. And so I think that overall there needed to be more line variation and the proper line variation along with spotting the blacks to make it stand on its own and really separate the way that it should. And then those stupid squared off fists that I've really been combating this, just so you know. Like you'll see in my work in 2017, the reason why this is sticking out like a sore thumb to me, they're like everywhere. These squared fists, can't get away from them. Is because now I notice them. Now I'm attacking that aspect of my art, and I've been studying how the fist and the hand it scrolls, it fans, and the pinky actually tucks into this part of the palm here. So just make a fist, study your own hand. It's really sad when you know these things, but then you sometimes don't implement them into your work. So by truly focusing on it, I should be able to address that and improve that aspect of my artwork. All right, so there it is. Those were my top 10 from the previous year. And just so you know, there's obviously a lot of work that I did that didn't make it to the final cut or whatever. Uh, so there's sketches, there's notes that I share and different work in progress shots and things like that. But these are what I would consider 10 of my best finished pieces from 2016. And let me know what you think as well. Let me know what insights you might have because I'm always trying to get better. And it's a very integral part to improving is allowing other people to tell you what they see wrong, what could be better. So I'm always open for that. As long as it's done in good taste, I never look negatively at that. And with that being said, just I want to wish everybody the most success they can have with their art. I appreciate the support that you bring here to the channel, watching my videos and things like that. And I hope that you get as good as you would like to be. Just remember, it's all comes with hard work and perseverance. And if you got that, you're going to get there. So just keep working hard and good luck in 2017. I appreciate everybody stopping by. Keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon.